What's up, Five Stripe fam? This week, we're going to talk about our USL team and a player that we all know and love, really loves us. Coming up next.
What's up, Five Stripe fam? AJ here with you. Tanner McLeod joining me today. You know, we're going to get into all the nitty-gritty of the news from this week, starting with Lucas Rodriguez of Estudiantes. I know what you're thinking. Who? So essentially, Atlanta United have bought the priority of buying rights to this player that none of us really know anything about. But we've watched his videos, and they look pretty good. He's like this 5'7" midfielder forward, and he seems to be pretty fast, has some good dribbling, and of the goals that I've seen him score, he scores a lot of goals in the 6-yard box. What do you think of this deal and what it means for Atlanta United?
It's a bit of an interesting kind of deal, if you can even call it that. It's more of an insurance policy, I guess. It's really interesting. South Americans, when it comes to transfers, they have very weird deals. I mean, only recently did FIFA outlaw third-party ownership, which made things really complicated. That would be where multiple parties could own players at the same time somehow, which made no sense. I think this is interesting. I think it's not a terrible idea. I mean, it's, hey, this is a player that we think could be good. We'll watch him develop a little bit more. And if he's good enough, then if we want to buy him, we can. And if someone else wants to buy him before us, we still can determine if we want to buy him.
Exactly. And it's good in case if a Miguel Almiron or a Josef or a Tito leaves in this transfer window, which has been rumored to not be true. So,
I mean, that's something. To be fair, when you talk about, a player we've never heard of, I had never heard of Tito Villalba before this year.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, so I think with how the club runs, they've done their scouting.
Absolutely.
I think if anyone's going to know anything about Argentina, it's going to be Tata.
Yes.
So if they think doing anything with these players is a good idea,
I
think that I'm going to go with their gut feeling because so far they've been right.
Absolutely, exactly. They've hit a home run. Talking about another sport in getting all three of those guys, and it's they have been tremendous for us.
Absolutely,
indeed. And speaking of Tata and one of his old teams that he used to play for, Newell's Old Boys, there are essentially another priority of buying rights with 4 players of Newell's Old Boys, and so if they come to do anything, we also have the right to kind of essentially draft them into our squad. So and these 4 players, which will be on the screen right here, they are one of them is a left back, which is pretty useful, especially with our little situation. If Greg Garza is going to stay, have a starting left back. So
yeah, I think that's valid. I mean, it's still, technically not even the off-season or transfer window for the league yet. It is for us, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think that you can't have any negatives when you're planning this far ahead, when you're looking at players you can say, hey, they could be useful to the first team in the future, especially when you still have question marks next to some squad players about whether they're going to be back next season. You don't see a lot of other MLS clubs doing this, which I'm very excited about because it shows how committed the front office is to having a groundwork in the future for players to be in the first team outside of the academy, which means they're taking, they're picking from different trees constantly to put things together, which is a brilliant idea, which I think is why, Atlanta is in such a strong position moving forward because they're always looking for the best players ahead of everyone else, and especially in places where not everyone else is going to have the connections that United does with Tata and Carlos Carmona's knowledge of South America, which is extensive.
Yeah, exactly. And it shows that intent. Like it's something that from day one, Atlanta United has shown the ambition, and that's more than all we could want. I mean, that's exactly what we want. Yeah, and on the topic of transfers, 442 put out an article about MLS rule changes and the changing nature of selling on players. You want to outline what was in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So 442 had an article come out.
No, yeah.
Let's do whatever.
No, so you can go from absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. 442 had an article come out where they talked.
Sorry. We'll face each other since we were facing each other.
Oh yeah. Sorry. So 442 had an article come out about how the MLS is looking to possibly restructure its transfer rules when it comes to clubs keeping money from players being sold on. Currently, the MLS only allows teams to keep $650,000 from any sale that they have to reinvest back into the first team. Now, that can be towards DP players or buying down contracts and targeted allocation money, but they can only use $650,000 of that. The rest of it has to be allocated outside of the first team, thinking, your academy, reserves, things like that. So, and it could be in response to potentially a player like Miguel Almiron being sold, because the MLS has never had a massive fee come into a player going out. They've paid for fees coming in, but they've never had a player that's really changed the transfer market in the league. And I think that teams would be very interested in a rule change like that, because it could allow them to actually produce this talent and then sell them on and actually be able to keep the money. Right. There was also a suggestion that teams could sell their homegrown players and keep 100% of those funds. So think 5, 6, 7 years from now, Andrew Carlton's out here banging in goals. If we wanted to sell him on to Europe, we get the entirety of whatever fee that we sell. Right now, MLS still gets a hefty chunk of each of those fees. Right. So that would allow teams, especially like Atlanta United, with such a competitive academy and a great first team that we've stated as our goal is to get these players to Europe, will allow us to have even more financial flexibility when it comes to the transfer market, and an already complicated one, which is MLS.
Definitely. And which might complicate things in terms of parity, but for Atlanta United, selfishly, I don't think we really care.
No.
Like, we would just want the
Absolutely.
to win every single year. But on the topic of, say, an Andrew Carlton and the selling on fee, like that's an amazing prospect, because think about if he becomes as good as a Christian Pulisic or something, and we sell him to a Dortmund, like we would be able to keep 100% of that. That would be amazing towards allocating other resources to, definitely other players that can fill out the roster, and thus makes Atlanta United stronger, makes MLS stronger. So, I see nothing but a good thing here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that it could actually put an impetus on some of these owners to invest more in their academies if they realize that they're going to be getting more money in return.
Right.
Because, we would love to be a selling league. I get that a lot of people don't like the idea of selling your best players, but where MLS is right now in world football, if we can be a selling league, the league is going to continue to increase in its talent, and it's going to be a better league. We're going to see better teams, better players, and that's what we all want. We all want to see really good players.
Exactly.
And if we're a selling league, that means that teams want those players. Right. And if owners are able to make millions of dollars off of these players being sold abroad, they're going to be more interested, because they're making more of a profit.
Right.
So I don't see any issues with this rule, except for maybe some of the teams that aren't as powerful financially. Mm-hmm. But then again, then it gives them that drive to say, hey, we need to get these young local players in. We need to develop these kids, because those kids are there. Yeah. They're in the New Yorks. They're going to be in your Floridas, your Los Angeles, your North. They're everywhere. Right. Now it's up to you to find those players and develop them. Exactly. And then you can get all the money back when you sell them on, and they'll be pretty stoked about it when they get moved to Europe as well, because I think that's where they want to go.
Right. And that's like kind of the problem with like other teams around the league that have been, like part of the MLS 1.0 and not really developing, an academy team, or, really scouting out beyond further than what their surroundings are. And so that's where they get stagnant, and that's just not, really helping the league. And so, you have the teams like, even the biggest teams, they sell their players. Like, think about the whole, Neymar situation. Barcelona is selling their, to what is kind of historically not as big of a team in PSG, but they now have, they're owned by like a country now. So that's a whole different thing. But that adds to, we need to add prestige to MLS, and this is the way. So
it's got to be built from the ground up. It's not a league where we've tried the whole, if we buy in old players who used to be good, then the league will increase in stature. I don't think that's the direction MLS needs. I don't think that's the direction U.S. soccer needs to get. But we don't want to get into that whole U.S. soccer debate. That's pretty complicated. But I think we all know that building from the ground up, because the talent's here, we have to have the incentive for those players to play,
right.
and those players to move on, and for the owners to make money and the clubs to be financially successful.
Right.
And I think it might be a small little rule change, and it might not solve all the problems, but it's a good move in the right direction to get things moving in a progress.
Right.
That's what we want, and I think that this is a good first step.
Right.
If it does in fact happen.
Right, for sure. And speaking of progress in the league, MLS is adding, LAFC out west, and so they're getting an expansion draft. How does this affect us? Well, basically, Atlanta United, they have to protect 11 players. And so that's very testy because we have more than 11 players on the squad. So, LAFC can draft 5 players, and that could be from any team. And so if they're not protected, they can draft them. What that means for us is that, we have to speculate who they're going to keep. Who would you keep?
Just put a box around that starting 11.
Yeah.
I don't think
minus Yamil Saad, minus Greg Garza because they're on loan. So
but take those other 9.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere.
Right.
I think when you look into the reserves, there are some players there that I wouldn't feel too upset.
Right.
If they win, if Walks is still here, I don't have a problem.
Because he's on loan too, so that also makes it 8, which actually makes it a little easier.
That's something that's very clever about what the club have done, where they have these players on loan, like Assad, that because they're on loan and we're not owned by the club, then
they haven't made a decision on them.
They can't put them in the expansion draft. I think that of a lot of teams, Atlanta's actually in a really good situation because we have a very solid starting 11.
Exactly.
And the players that don't really... I would only say there's probably, 15 players tops that rotate in. Tata didn't play a very large squad. Even at the end of the season, he still tended to stick towards his core group of players. Right. I think you could see a player like Khan, the backup goalkeeper, or Can, however he pronounces it. But sorry, mate, if you're watching. Right. You can see a play like that, because he's not your number 1 goalkeeper. I'd love to see him stay because I think it's great to have competition, especially at a spot where most people think that it's just one guy.
Right. I think with those 3 spots, him probably taking up one of those other spots, since we do have 4 goalkeepers, that really helps. Yeah. And so. That makes it 9, and then so 2 more. And keep in mind, Miles Robinson doesn't count. Who would we keep? I would say an additional person, maybe the 10th person would probably be Brandon Vasquez. I think we need depth at striker. I think we saw this year that when Josef was out, when Tito had to step in. Our wing depth is also affected there, so I definitely think he's a guy that can develop. He can grow on his strengths of being really big, being able to hold up the ball, as well as play on the wing a little bit, being pretty fast, and him only being 19 is fantastic. That's there's only room for growth there, but. I think there are other players that we can keep. That we want to keep safe. Who do you think?
I don't know. I think a player that we could put on that list, though, of players that if they wanted to touch, they could be like a McCann, mostly because of his contract. Yeah. I think he's a solid player, and I'd love to keep him. But he's a player that's you could risk him being on there because if they try to pick him, it's there goes that contract. Great. Have a nice day.
And then we can pick up Greg Garza's contract at that point.
Which is hey, everyone's happy. You got your left back all sorted out, and you got rid of a big contract.
For sure.
I think what's interesting is that depth was a big thing at the club this year. I mean, obviously across the front, but I think on the whole, depth was something that we don't have a lot of. So I think Vasquez is a really good player to keep on there, just because he is young, he is going to get better. Right. He does offer you something different up front. Peterson offers that as well, but he's a little bit older, so I don't know if that's a player you'd like to put on, to keep just safe because of his age. Honestly, I think that outside of our first team that really plays that those 11 guys, I think that there's no one in particular that we need to stay super focused on keeping away from them. I think there's going to be other clubs that have more players for bigger squads they could look to take from. I honestly, I'm not too worried about the draft. I'm not too worried about the players that are on the list, because I think I have such a fundamental, and I hope probably not misplaced belief in the front office.
Yeah.
That whatever happens, they're going to have something for it.
Yeah.
I think that they've thought this fruit through, and whoever they're going to put on there, they put a lot of work into it. So, I mean, I'm pretty confident what they're going to do.
In breaking news of the week, Atlanta United have officially announced that we're getting a USL expansion team in 2018. They're going to play at Gwinnett Braves' Coolray Field, and unfortunately that's a baseball field, but, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm super stoked. I said it last week. I thought it was a brilliant idea.
Yes.
I'm excited about it. Darren Eales said as much. I mean, he basically, you know, exactly what I wanted to hear from him, in that it was going to be that bridge between the academy, which is top of the line, to our first team, which is top of the line.
Exactly.
So now we're just going to have that team in the middle,
right.
and it's going to teach those players how to play against other seasoned professionals that aren't teenagers. They're going to be these adults that this is what they do. They play professional soccer. And these kids are going to get the chance to play against them before they get to MLS.
Right.
And that playing against those players, they get roughed up a little bit. They'll learn some more tricks. They'll learn their craft better.
Right.
And it, I think, has no negative effects for them in their soccer education, for them to get to the first team.
Right.
I'm excited about it. I'm interested to see how the little technicalities of it work. Like, can players play there and then play for us at the same time? Or do they have to be on that roster and we can only bring them up at certain times?
Right.
I'm excited. I'm not excited about the stadium. I don't like the idea of playing in a baseball stadium.
Right. I think we've seen the issues with them playing, like Atlanta United playing at, say, like a Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
You know, you have the restrictions of the playing field. It's not going to be, you know, regulation size, or hopefully it is. Hopefully they are able to expand Coolray Field a little bit. But yeah, that brings some playing, you know, differences, because we like to play with, you know, wide open spaces in as big as open of a space as possible. And so if we have to play tight, and then they come to the first team, and then, you know, they have all the space to roam, they might not, you know, get accustomed as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of my main concerns is I love the idea of where it is. I think it's brilliant to not have it in downtown Atlanta, because there's a lot of United fans who live out in suburbia, and it's hard to get to Atlanta. So if you wanted to play at the bench, it's going to be hard. It's going to be expensive for parking. Tickets will be more expensive.
I'm not really sure that would have been an option.
I don't think. I mean, I think it's just too much. It's too big. You wouldn't want that extra space. I love where it is, though. I think it's brilliant. It's easier for people to get to. It gives people a chance who don't live in the city to see something. I know I'm going to go watch those players, and I think it's going to be a little bit more maybe family friendly than some first team matches, because we know we can get pretty rowdy in MBS.
For sure.
And if you're trying to bring some kids and watch a good soccer game, you know, what better else to do? And you can see the young upcoming stars that are going to be playing in the first team. I think for me, the biggest issue is going to be the size of the pitch. If the pitch is going to be the exact same size as MBS, because it has to be the same size. You can't train on one and then be like, oh, you're at the first team, different size pitch. So I think that's good. But, you know, it is maybe a little bit far away. I don't know. Do you think fans are going to go, or? Yeah,
I mean, I think fans will make it out. It's a question of if our like rabid supporters groups will show up. Which all indications have said yes. I mean, you know, anytime there's like a little bit of a scrimmage at the training ground or something like that, you know, like shrouds of us come and, you know, support it. So I think it's possible. It's just if it's like on a Tuesday at 6 p.m., you know,
it's raining.
It's raining or something. Yeah, I mean that's where it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go when I have the time. I mean, it's a little bit far away for us, maybe the people who live, you know, in the city, in the perimeter. But it's a great opportunity for people who might not be able to go watch the first team. They still get to go watch Atlanta United.
Exactly.
Which is why I want it called Atlanta United too.
Sure.
To you know, go to the whole naming thing. I just want them to wear the same kit, maybe a different shirt sponsor. I want it to be the same, because that's how it's done the rest of the world. You know, it's the same almost everything, and it's a production line. It's that line of transition: academy, USL, first team, and I want that to be clear with us. I don't want us to have some marketing ideas, the Atlanta United Georgia Peaches. I don't know. I just want it. I like it to all stay under the Atlanta United umbrella, just because I love how we have things. And there's just no need to change it. So, you know, maybe something else which you're talking about, if it's cold and it's rainy. In England they say, can you do it on a cold rainy night in Stoke? Maybe for our youngsters will be, can you do it on a cold rainy night in Gwinnett?
Exactly. Well, it's true. And if they can do that, then they can do it anywhere, right? But yeah, on that topic then, you know, what do you guys think the name should be for Atlanta United, their expansion team. Should it be Atlanta United 2? Should it be Outcast FC?
That'd be pretty tight, though.
Yeah, exactly. You got to show a little bit of the history, a little bit too, of Atlanta and the culture. What would work for you? Put it down in the comments below, and we'll pick the best one. We'll talk about next week. And now on a player that we all love, Josef Martinez mentioned in the video that Atlanta United put out, where he called in and he mentioned that Atlanta United was the best decision that he's made, and that coming here, he wants to win. Multiple things. He wants to achieve greater things here, and that he wants to stay a while. What are your thoughts on that? And the fact that I think we're happy that we're gonna get this player for a little longer term than we thought.
Well, I think everything, when players say things, you have to take them a little bit, because players can say they love somewhere and then they leave. Sure. I like it. I think he's passionate. You can tell he loves it. You can tell he loves the club. I think he's bonded well with a lot of the players. I'm excited to hear a player say, especially after only 1 year. Most of the time you hear players going, "I love Man United. I love Barcelona. I love this really big historic club." And he's saying, "I love this new club that I'm making history with, and I want to keep making history with it." And I love that. And I hope he has a long future and he sets a all-time goal scoring record that's going to be hard to get broken.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only does he love this club, he is hearsay he loves the clubs in Atlanta as well. So he loves all the music and the dancing and all that.
Stay, Joseph. Just stay a very, very long time. And
Lots
keep
of
scoring goals. Lots of golden boots. Just fill it up. All the goals. It's here for you, mate.
Exactly. And so on to our last bit. We're going to end today's episode on a pretty hilarious little thing on the Instagram story of Tito Villalba. Tito Villalba, Carlos Carmona, and Yamil Assad went to Disney World, and the one in Orlando City where Tito likes to tame lions. But they were riding an amusement ride, getting some cheap thrills, And Carlos Carmona, we're gonna flip to this video. Carlos Carmona is not having a good time.
Not scared of any soccer players. Apparently scared of amusement rides, though.
Exactly. He is a destroyer on the field, but he not having a good time here. And Yamil Assad seemingly not having a good time, but
Tito Villalba having a great time.
Yes, exactly. And they're both laughing at Carlos Carmona. I mean, granted, it's heights. They're real.
I get it. I get it. I think the only thing less terrifying than Orlando City might be these two guys riding this ride.
Yeah, exactly. But so they're having a great time. Glad to see that, and it's
good to see players bonding together off the field, because I don't know how many of them knew each other before this season.
Right.
And when you see this kind of chemistry out the field, even though it's just them having fun, they're sticking together in the off season, and they're not staying far. Going far. Miguel and Joseph have been training here. They're staying here. I think they love it, and that makes me happy as a supporter to know that they love it just as much as we love them.
Exactly.
So it's nothing but good stuff to see team building. I mean, that is team building at the heart of it, because the better they know each other, and they think as one on the field, we score more goals, and we're all happy.
Exactly. They love going on trips together, and it's amazing. It's true. So I think that will do it for us for today. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, subscribe already. Throw a like on the video, and
throw a comment. We're still trying to get better, and we're going to keep doing these every week. If there's something that we're missing that you think we should talk about it, throw it down there. We're all part of the Five Stripe fam. We're all trying to get better, and we want you to be as much a part of us as we want to be a part of you guys. So have a great week, and we'll see you soon.